Hey, CrewTrax here with some love for the office staff. Remember this page, your list of users? Well, let me just wave my magic wand. Ta-da! It is so much more beautiful and usable now. And whether you have 2 employees or 2,000 employees, the new features on this employee list are going to be really useful to you. But first, let's talk about those people who do have hundreds or thousands of employees. With the old users list, you had to scroll and scroll and scroll, click next, 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 maybe hit Control F on your browser to try to find something. Not anymore. Now we have these great searching and sorting abilities on this employees list page. So for example, let's find Will Smith. I'll just type Will and there he is. Piece of cake. Now let me undo that search and now let's just sort by display name. In fact, by default it's already sorted by display name, so the first time I click it just lets me know, yep, it's sorted. Click again, it sorts the other way. Look at that, Will Smith towards the end of the alphabet comes right to the top. In fact, you can sort by any of these columns. Click once to sort in alphabetical order, another to sort in the opposite order, and then click again to undo that sorting altogether. Which means this employees list page is now a really easy way to see the clock status for each of your employees. Whether they're currently clocked in, clocked out, or have never clocked in at all. Most of mine haven't because this is just my demo company, but I'll jump over to a real company in just a second so you can see how awesome this is when it's actually in use. You can sort by active and inactive. Right now we're only looking at my active employees, but we can look at the inactive ones or show them all at once. And in fact, since I have these buttons up here to choose active, inactive, or all, maybe I just don't even want that column there. Cool, just click on the cog over here. You can choose which columns you want displayed. You can rearrange the columns just by clicking and dragging over here, and then you can save those settings. And now if I exit this page and come back to it, not only is it going to save which columns I've selected and which order they're in, it will also save that I've sorted it by clock status. So when you come back, you'll pick up right where you left off. Or if there's a certain way you want to view this list all the time, great, it'll be saved for you. Oh, there is one column that can't be rearranged though. Actions will always be over on the right. You've got the view button, the edit button, and these 3 dots that give you a couple more options. And since I've got it open, those options are the time card and export the job time just for this particular employee. By the way, the time card has also become more beautiful, but I'll come back to that in a minute. For now, let's go ahead and edit this employee. If I click on edit, it brings up this new dialog box. Now you might notice some things here you don't recognize, like for example, division and branch. These are what we call flex codes. They're basically just custom fields that we can add for you. So if you want something like that, let us know. But what we didn't have before was first name and last name fields and a title for each employee. And I'll show you how that's useful in just a second. But first, let's look at these employee settings, which are also new. And I'm sorry, you don't have access to make your employees into free accounts, but you can allow the employee to see their own time card and time logs, and allow the employee to see their own production card? Yes, this is also new with this employees list, and I'll get to that in a minute as well. For now, let's save this employee, and look, here's that title that I mentioned just a second ago. So we have a few user types in CrewTrax. There's an administrator, a supervisor, a foreman, and an employee. But we found that sometimes those user types, although they're useful in CrewTrax, they're not quite descriptive enough for what they do in your company. For example, this supervisor is a project manager, this supervisor is a superintendent, and this supervisor is a shop manager. That's great. We just gave you a field where you can indicate job titles that are more relevant to your company, and then like all the other columns, you can sort by that to find what you're looking for. And by the way, I should also mention up here in the search, you can also search by any column you want. So let's search titles, and let's look for all of our people with the title of foreman. There they are. Great. How about my superintendents? Oh, just one. There he is. Okay, now I'll just hit that X to close that filter, or that search rather, and now I can see everybody again. Okay, let's sort by display name, save those settings, and let's go ahead and look at this employee right here, my foreman named Brett Fairborn. I'll show you in a minute what this is going to look like for your company when you actually have some photos coming in for the clock ins and clock outs. You'll have the latest picture right here, which is pretty cool. But I opened this one because I wanted to show you this production card right here. Now, I just filled out production for one day so we'd have some data to look at. But of course, if you have data every day, you'll see their production lined up here and then the total units for each item that they worked on that's tracking production. Now this is especially useful for our customers who are paying their employees piece rate rather than hourly, because right here you can see a quick summary of all the production units they've completed for the week. Okay, now let's look at the rest of this page with some real data. Alright, here's a real employee of one of our customers, and I love this one because not too often do we see a picture of the guy with his arm around his friend on the job site. That's pretty cool. This company must be doing something right. So this is the latest clock in or clock out photo of this employee. I can click on advanced setting to see if he's allowed to see his time card, time logs, and production card. Yes, he is. I can click on edit employee to see that dialog box we looked at earlier. And as I scroll down, let's look at these sections I sort of flew by on my demo company. First of all, we have his time card. We can see the time that he's allocated. Looks like he just worked on one item all week, although on Friday his time hasn't been allocated yet. Oh, and I might just give you a quick little side note here. On my company, the week started on a Thursday. For this company, the week starts on a Monday. That's just in setup, organization settings. You can choose which day of the week your week starts on, and usually that aligns with when you run payroll. So just a heads up in case you didn't know, you can choose which day of the week comes first here. All right, so there's his time card, and we can see it in hours and minutes or in a decimal. And we can also jump through each week here just by clicking previous week or next week. Or we can click on the calendar drop down and choose any given week. The Mondays are highlighted there because their week starts on a Monday. So I'm going to choose a Monday to display the week's data for that week. Now as I scroll down, I chose the week of March 2nd here, and it's going to select that for the next section as well. So you're always looking at the same week of data. It'd be kind of confusing if you didn't. So here's all his time logs for that week, and the production card you see is collapsed here. I can click to expand it, but this company doesn't use production tracking, and if that's the case for you as well, just click to collapse this section, and it will stay collapsed anytime you view an employee. All right, the last section we have here is assigned schedules, and this actually just shows the most recent schedules. It doesn't have a date navigator. The reason for that is anywhere in these other places, you can click on one of these to see the schedule for that given date. So if I want to see the details for these 5.5 hours on Thursday, March 5th, great, I'll just click on that, and here's the entire daily report for that crew for that day. Okay, I've scrolled back to the top, and I want to show you one more thing before we leave this CrewTrax account for this customer that's been kind enough to let us use them as show and tell. Let's look at their employees list. I don't even know if I mentioned, it is the employees list now, not the users list. And look, you can see the latest photo for each person here as you scroll through as well. It's pretty cool. This new employees list is not just more useful, it's also just nicer to look at. Oh, and I mentioned I'd come back to this column when we were looking at a real company. Look at this. I've saved the settings where it's sorted by clock status. So every time I come to this page, it's going to start by showing me the people who are currently clocked in. You still have your clock status here under schedules, but this is just kind of a cool way to see at a glance who is currently clocked in rather than scrolling through crew by crew like you do here on the clock status. You know what, let's go back and view Angel one more time because I wanted to show you one other thing. You have all these download PDF buttons where you can get a PDF of any of these sections. So let's try this one. And here it is. Here's the time card for Angel for the week that I had selected. And finally, back up here at the top, you have a few shortcut links here. You can go back to your list of all your employees. You can see the time card for just this employee. Or if you click export job time, it will export the job time just for that one employee that you were looking at. Okay, back to my demo company for just a little bit more information about the individual production cards and time cards. If we go to setup and then organization settings, and then scroll all the way down to the bottom, we can see we have these new employee defaults. So by default, do you want employees to see their own time card and time logs? And do you want to allow employees to see their own production card? If you don't, just uncheck those. And then in each individual employee, let me open one up again. Just a quick review, I showed you this earlier, but you have the ability to edit the employee, and then on employee settings, you can override those company defaults just for this one person and say, okay, for this particular person, do you want them to be able to see their own time cards and time logs? And do you want them to see their own production card? All right, let's jump back to the organization settings here. And just in case you were confused by this individual production stuff, that is a new feature that we rolled out recently. So let me find that setting here. Here it is, under production. Default production tracking mode, do you want to track by crew or do you want to track by employee? If you're tracking by crew, then the individual production card is going to be useless. You don't need it. So you can just collapse that section on the view employee page and just leave it collapsed forever. But if you do want to track production by employee, this is where you set that. And then of course in each schedule, if I go to my schedules list, I just have one schedule for today. If I edit that schedule, you can override that setting on each individual schedule. So for this one, I am tracking production by individual employee. If I uncheck that, we're just going to be tracking for the whole crew. No information will go into individual production cards in that case. So that's it. We hope you're as excited as we are about this update. We're very happy to show some love to the office staff of our customers. We know how hard you work. It's like herding cats. Not that your people are like cats. Okay, sometimes they are. But usually an office manager is doing things like payroll and HR and applications and terminations and answering the phone and I mean 100 other things. So this is just going to make managing your list of employees in CrewTrax so much easier. And as always, if you have any questions, we would love to help you, so please reach out anytime.